My name is Owen Benjamin. I'm a comedian, and I'm all about fires and beers and, having a good time, being American, having a nice thick cock.
I have been banned. Twitter was like, ISIS, pedophiles, great, retweets, yes. Hilarious comedian, get the fuck out of here.
There's this guy in entertainment who has a 3-year-old that he said was transgendered. And when I was 3, I thought I was a dog. And so he started dressing up his kid as a girl, and he's planning on hormone blockers and whatnot. And I pointed out how that's, child abuse, the obvious shit. And there was such a controversy that I lost my agent, and I wasn't allowed to perform at UConn because of my problematic worldviews. And I would have backed down. I made fun of Beyonce for that dance she did, and I deleted the tweet because I'm like, I'm not going to die on this hill, but I'll die in the little kid hill. If you're going to make a little kid a eunuch, I'd rather work at a gas station than pretend that's okay. So there was a controversy around that, and you really get to find out who your friends are and who actually believes in individual freedom versus an outrage Ponzi scheme, virtue signaling bullshit. And fuck those guys.
People keep comparing everything to Hitler now. Everyone's like, that's literally Hitler. Like, I've been called Hitler a lot.
Well, the media wrote about me, like Breitbart and HuffPost wrote positive things about me. And some good people had my back, but a lot of people called me human garbage. And these aren't like trolls. These aren't people with like eggs. These are blue check marked, best-selling authors, writers at Amazon.com. And I'm like, people know your name now. Like, someone's going to want to kill you guys because you guys abuse kids. And there's a lot of people that were abused as kids that grow up to be adults. And they're given 2 paths. You either complete the cycle of violence and you become an abuser yourself, or you want to kill you guys. And it's like, oh, well, this kid identifies. How dare you go against a trans kid? It's like, no one's buying that shit, man. It's like, my son is young and he likes to dance and play the piano and he thinks he's a duck. It's like, you don't neuter him. You don't emotionally torture him because you want outrage Ponzi scheme points with your buddies. And it's like, and it all came as these people are threatening free speech. And I'll go at them because there's so much more at stake than just like looking cool for the writing staff of a CW show. Like, these people are cowards. And it's like, I want my family to respect me, and I want to respect myself as a man and not say it's okay to abuse a child. Because I'm cool with trans adults. Like, if you're a grown human being and you want to chop your wiener off, you do that. There's been times I want to chop my wiener off, not for the same reason, more because it's getting me in trouble, but then I made life with that same wiener. And that's why I think it's worth it to keep that ween. Because one day you may make your own child. Because wieners can make life. They can get you in trouble. They can make you drive to Barstow in the middle of the night for a hand job when you're 21. But it can also make life. And my life is I have a purpose because I made a child and I love my child. And I'll protect any child. Yeah, media runs cover for Hollywood in the sense that, like, Kevin Spacey tried to rape a kid. And the headline was, Kevin Spacey comes out as gay. And it's like, yeah, I think there's a different aspect of that. That's like, if we dropped a bomb on Denmark and it's like, oh, this plane full of guys had a sandwich. It's like, no, the story's the bomb. Like, he tried to fuck a 14-year-old. He's a grown man. And it's like, there's different types of predators and there's different types of weirdos. And the type I can't stand are the ones that use their power to exploit the weak. Like, this week, Andy Dick came out with a scandal, and I feel bad for him because he's not the same wolf in the hen house. He's like clearly a vulnerable dick grabber. And so for me, I'm like, Andy's a dick grabber. It's like, it sucks in a way, but you just knock him down and he's all right. Versus like the Weinsteins and the Kevin Spaceys and the whole DNC crew in a lot of ways, where they're like, we're going to tell you how to live. We're going to tell you you're the bad guy. We're going to talk about global warming and then fly around in a private jet. Those are the people that I think are bad. Versus like Andy Dick's he's just drunk on ween. You know, he's like, I'm gonna grab your ween. It's like, fuck you, Andy Dick. He's like, oh, that's all good. That's why I don't want people like him to be lumped in with like the Weinstein, where it's like, oh, you want a job, weak girl? I'm gonna whack off on this plant. Like, I want to fucking strangle that guy to death. Have I noticed that work in the industry? Yeah, I mean, there is definitely a culture of, I think a lot of times these like fat, gross guys like Weinstein will like want to get laid, and they think that they're gonna, if they make $1 billion and they own a studio, women are gonna want them, and women still don't want them. And so then they end up hating women, and then they just start acting insane versus like just being a good guy. You know, like a Weinstein type character could be at a dinner and he's spending $1,000 on a girl and she's just eyeing the busboy who has better skin. You know, because women aren't as material driven as men think they are. They're more driven by men with certain qualities like ambition or like hardworking or kind. You know, like true alpha men that are good. And then you have these like slovenly slob Jabba the Hutt guys that are like, I can put you in Romeo and Juliet. And they're like, but you're so fucking gross, I can't see your cock. And they're like, watch me whack off on a plant. And those guys have to be just taken out because those aren't good men. And I know alpha males in Hollywood who are great men, and it's because they're great men. It's almost like money and success are an exclamation point to an existing sentence. It's like steroids. It doesn't change you, it amplifies what you are. And there's good men and bad men, and the bad men seem to be running the asylum right now, and I hope to see them go. And then you see the Meryl Streep, these like pimps. You know, they're on the Oscar stage saying Harvey Weinstein's God, even though you know he's not. And so they're sending young, impressionable women to the mouths of a dragon. And so I think that these people are also fucked up because you got to protect the kids. You got to protect the vulnerable. And I think that's what makes great men, and this whole culture of like calling people toxic masculinity and eye contact as rape and shit. It's to cut out real men that will call out the rapists and fuck them up. So you have a bunch of these dudes that will just let him finger Gwyneth Paltrow as your girlfriend. It's like, no, punch him in the fucking face because these people need boundaries, you know?
Could you talk about the way...
Dude, I'm out of my mind. So I tweeted that photo of all the late night comedy hosts and how they all agreed on the same party, the same candidate, all the same policies. And I said, ladies and gentlemen, comedy. And it got, like 30,000 retweets or something, which shows a lot of people agree with that. So why are right-wing people in all elements, libertarian, conservative, anarchist, whatever just isn't leftist, why are they not represented in late night? And it's because they're pushing an agenda of I have conspiracy theories of increasing the size of government, but I think it's an outrage Ponzi scheme where it's almost like Bernie Madoff, where unless you get new investors, it falls apart. And a lot of these people, they need a new victim group, and they're reaching to the point of 3-year-old trans kids because they've accomplished. Women can vote. Rape is illegal, Gay people can marry. Gay people aren't getting hung by a tree. Black people can go to, So what do you got now? Now you got trans, okay? I know some trans people, very few people do. It's not a big percentage of the population, and doesn't matter what you do, you're not going to change your biology on a cellular level. And then you have rights for those people, so now you got to go to kids. And at that point, I think you bring out the wolves, and you see true predators trying to prey on children. And that's when I start tweeting, and I will burn my own career to see you fucking burn. Listen, I made fun of Trump a lot until maybe a month after he got elected because there was no room to make fun of him because everyone was going so far overboard that it wasn't even fun. It's like a lot of these comics aren't even doing jokes. They're trying to get applause. And comedians shouldn't go for applause. We're not cult leaders. We go for jokes. And when you see these comedians just rant about a guy that he can be annoying, but he's not doing anything crazy. I started defending Trump because I'm like, this isn't, if you think Trump's Adolf Hitler, you're playing Dungeons and Dragons. Like, this isn't reality. Like, I wanted to mock him about how he tweets. He tweets like a stripper on coke, you know? But, like, I'm not going to get on board that. Like the other side is such a bigger existential threat, you know, cultural Marxism, that I'm not going to get on board these people that just want to make Trump into everyone's enemy and not address any actual issues. Our stock market's up. Deportation is ironically down. He's the first pro-gay president in history. It's like he's not rounding anybody up. It's like, what exactly is this nightmare that's coming to fruition that isn't really happening? And that's what made me really turn on the left. Because I've always been like, maybe more like a classical liberal, like more like, not groupthink, autonomy based on the individual, which is kind of conservative, kind of libertarian, just anti-authoritarian. You know, that's always been my view. And now I see the left as like a legitimate threat because they're like, you're defined by your skin, your sexuality. You know, it's that groupthink Gulag Archipelago shit that I think people should be very terrified of. And I think Trump is not ideal, but I'll take his orange ass over, you know, a lot of these other complete fucking Marxists. You know, and I'll make another point. It's like Trump was inevitable. It's in the world of the constant shaming, only the shameless will rise. So it's almost like a math equation where, like, if you're going to shame someone, you know, you call someone racist based on what football team they like, or like you call someone sexist if they don't want to hang out with their wife at a bar, you're going to only allow the people to rise that are immune to shame. And that's a Trump. And he's like the reaction to what happens when you over-tighten the screws on society and you demonize white males for no reason. You know, I haven't owned a slave in years. So it's like, I gave up my slaves Obama's second term, so I don't feel like I should have to pay any price. You know, I tie my own shoes now. Not well. You know, I miss DeAndre and Jamarcus, but I have to move on with my life. Yeah, I mean, humor just is. And I think that, like, authoritarians are terrified of humor because you can't fake it. Where people laugh based on what it's all instinct. You can't fake it. That's why when you watch a Colbert or some of these guys rant about Trump, there isn't laughter, it's clapping, because that's bullshit. When you make someone laugh, it comes from a real place. And when the power pendulum swings too hard right, I mock the left. Too hard left, I mock the right. And that's what makes people authentically laugh, because you have to attack unearned power. And right now, the left hates comedy. And that's why they're like, every Netflix special, it's just like, I'm a lesbian from Sri Lanka who's left-handed, and I don't have any jokes. And you're like, well, I know why that is, because you don't want to risk it. And I'm not even like, I didn't get into this as a shock comic or someone trying to provoke. Like, just the fact I wouldn't mock Trump supporters and I was doing more like family-friendly comedy about how much I love my dog. Like, it was seen as like not hip. And I'm like, that's weird, because I'll tour the country and crush, and I'll see some of the people you're giving hour specials to fucking tank. But just because they accompany what you believe to be an underserved market based on gender and race, which is what Martin Luther King Jr. fought against, you guys can go fuck yourself, and I'll get on Vimeo. The career's been going oddly good since I made this move, because I think there's a lot of people that feel underrepresented that are excited about what I'm saying, and they support me. I just released our special that they have been buying, and I just am breaking away from the mothership. And I was terrified at first, but I couldn't let them dress up the little kids and not let them go through puberty. And my wife supports me like more than she ever did before, you know, because she sees me as more brave, you know. She saw that I would risk my career, which a lot of people could misconstrue as ego. You know, my dad's a public speech professor. My mom teaches children's literature. So it's basically boil down stories and speak publicly. Like, I'm made to be a comedian. It isn't as motivated by ego for me personally, but like, women respect when you take a little spotlight off yourself for an ideal. And my wife looks at me in a way that's like more proud than before when I would get a development deal, just because I would make it seem like Caitlyn Jenner is like super brave. Fake news. Well, I think there's been such an increase in information for the public that institutions like CNN don't have the same racket that they used to. I think it was a lot easier to trick people before we had podcasts and YouTube live streams and Periscopes and Twitter and all this stuff. And there's a lot of bullshit too. I'm not saying that, you know, the things you acquire on alternative sources are accurate, but a lot of them are. And humans, I think a big weakness of the elite left, the elite rich left, is they think plumbers and truck drivers and janitors and entrepreneurs are stupid, and they're not at all. They're almost like they can see through a lot of the bullshit, and they can see how, like, they'll read a primary document and see how CNN spins it, and they go, oh, I don't trust you guys anymore. Like, you guys just tried and make a story that we all know the story, and you just try to spin it. Like Kevin Spacey comes out as gay. No, you tried to fuck a 14-year-old. We know that, so now we don't trust you. But it's happening with the Muslim shit too. It's like, admit it's Muslim extremism. That way we don't get pissed at our chiropractor. Like, admit what it is, you know? Because I think this like a bigger uncomfort about Muslims comes from the inability to identify the true snake, the Muslim fundamentalists, the people that can't draw Muhammad without chopping someone's head off. Like, admit that's what it is, and then we can all move forward as a group. Admit that, like, a lot of privileged people are white, but a lot of white people aren't privileged. It's a logic fallacy. They keep fucking switching around. And people are smart. They're smarter than the elite think we are. And once you lose trust, you lose it all. And CNN at this point has less credibility than The Onion, because at least satire is somewhat honest, because it's going for a laugh. Well, John Oliver, he seems intelligent, but, you know, if a British person's going to come to America and talk shit about America, they can, you know, get back on the wooden boat that they came on. You know, because the thing about the British is, you know, my last special was taped in England. Fan of a lot of the people, but they're still kind of hurt about the loss they took. Because, you know, back in the late 1770s, they were going against a bunch of farmers, and they got beat based on American, you know, ingenuity, individualism. They tried to come at us in 1812, but, you know, we kept it up. And they're still a little pissed because, you know, what they did to Africa, they couldn't do to us. And now they send us people like John Oliver to talk some shit, and we're a little past the whole Union Jack. So John Oliver is smart, he's funny, but, you know, he can go fuck himself and get back on the old little wooden boat he came on and go back to his little shit socialist country where the fucking sun doesn't rise in the winter till like 10:30 a.m. That's way north. And that's all good, but, you know, they can go fuck themselves. You know, John Oliver can eat some porridge and get himself some braces. And stop bitching about our tax plan, because we invented the computer and they invented world slavery. Well, the political culture on the surface amongst comedians these days is left, but it isn't. It can't be. To be a comedian, you have to be an individualist. It's the closest thing to piracy that you can really have. Like, you can't stand on a stage with lights on you and have everyone pay money to hear you talk, and you're the only one with a microphone and believe in collectivism. It's like, you know, an NFL running back can't believe in leftist ideals. It's like, bitch, I run a 4.240, you're a fat pig. Like, you have to be an individualist. That doesn't mean you're not kind. It doesn't mean you don't want to help people or have a safety net for people that are going through a hard time. That's a big pet peeve of mine, that everyone on the right is called, like, has no empathy or is selfish or whatnot. That's not true at all. It's just, it has to be choice. It has to be like, you have to let people choose who they help. Because if not, you end up like the Asians. You know, you guys are great. You're very efficient. You know, you can make a lot of shit in the factories, but you can't invent anything with a gun to your head. You know what I mean? You know what I mean with the Asians? I do respect the Koreans quite a bit. I respect the Japanese as well, but after they got nuked, they just got really into cartoons and tentacles and shit. just whacking off to tentacle porn. Before that, there were Brave Samurai Warriors. Then we drop, Little Boy and Big Fellow, whatever it was called. And now they're just whacking off to fucking tentacle porn. So they were shocked into some reality there. To have contact with journalists, I'm tight with, Rogan and Crowder and Adam Carolla and Legion of Skanks and a lot of people that have big podcasts, but I never felt the need. I wasn't even into politics until they came on my soil. I was big into men and women stuff. Like men do this, women do this. I was almost kind of hacky, and now I'm like a revolutionary because I don't think men and women are identical. And once they came into my arena, I had to care because I'm like, there's a coyote on my property. Because it's like, if you go through my career, I was never a leftist. I was always into individual freedom and trying to make couples laugh. And I was into, I was a raging single person, but I eventually wanted a family. I was never into this like pride and sucking. And so when you see my path as a entertainer, there is no, people say like, oh, when were you red-pilled? I'm like, I wasn't. I just saw the Overton window slide off a cliff. Where I'm like, now that the left is trying to say men and women are identical, but you can be a woman trapped in a man, then you got to cut your own dick off at 7. I'm like, those are crazy people. So no comedy is in truth, and you can't possibly go with this shit. You can't possibly say a 6-year-old is trans and then go on stage as a truth teller in order to get people to laugh out loud because you hit their psyche. That's an impossibility. Underneath every leftist comedian is at the least a libertarian, because you have to be individual driven in order to be this job. And that's why I see a lot of cowards, and they'll just eat themselves. And you're seeing it. You're seeing that shit. And the fact I was willing to give up what I had in my career only helped my career. It's so crazy when you see the real alphas come out and be like, man, I support what you're doing. And I'm like, dude, when I was on a sitcom for 3 years, you never gave a shit. It's because, yeah, I was a company man, and being a comedian is being a little fucking crazy. Like, it's not clocking in and out to the DNC agenda. It's about being like, fuck you guys. There's an element of danger in comedy. And I think when comedians lose that line, you're doing society a major disservice. Because now, instead of us saying the crazy shit and everything staying in an idea that we can all debate, it becomes clenched up, and before you know it, it becomes violence. Can you imagine Daniel Tosh doing his shit, or, Richard Pryor? Richard Pryor would be called alt-right. It's like, it's gotten to the point where, like, George Carlin would have lost his agent. It's like, what was this thing? The 10 words you can't say on TV? Now there's the 300 words that'll trigger the little Asian girl in Yale. It's like, no, you guys can go fuck yourself. I could have been a lawyer. Like, I did this because I like it. So you're not going to take my fucking art from me, because I'd rather burn it, And I think a lot of people are seeing that. And, like you see the Amy Schumers of the world being like, you should have just voted for Hillary. She'll take care of you. And it's like, people will vote against their financial interest because of culture. And people will make it seem like flyover states are stupid for that. But in fact, culture is more important. Like, I would give up money to not be a pathetic cunt. And it's like, anyone with character would do that. It's like, I'm not going to be called white trash and toxic masculinity and not be able to say what I believe. And if you want to take your fucking $100,000 development deal a year where no one ever makes the show anyway, go for it. I'd rather do tree work with my brother than have you talk that shit to me, because then my son won't respect me and my wife won't blow me anymore. Jimmy Kimmel is a disappointment, because I always thought he was really funny. And he was like one of those guys that, I'm friends with liberals that make me laugh my ass off. And he would be, when he hosted the Oscars, some of my right-wing friends got annoyed by him. And I thought it was great, because I'm like, he's doing punchlines. The thing I don't like is when they don't do punchlines, when they're like, I'm not even kidding, Donald Trump is Adolf Hitler. Let's cue the music. I'm like, dude, that's an offensive lineman going out for a pass. Know your job. And so Kimmel, even though he was left, I'm like, at least he's doing punchlines. Once he went sobbing on TV about shit he doesn't understand, he's the worst. Because you know, he doesn't have Obamacare. I have Obamacare. I had to prove my son's income at 6 months, and there's no one you can call because it's a bureaucratic nightmare. I've had his health insurance. I've had Writers Guild. I've had Screen Actors Guild, and it's free. Writers Guild's free, and it's really easy. And now Obamacare, I can't opt out of it and just pay the market amount. So I have to pay, you know, over $1,000 a month, even though I'm not a wealthy person. And my, you know, I hit my foot with an axe, and I had to put a maxi pad on it because I don't want to pay the $500 copay, you know? And companies want to make their own health insurance, and they hate Obamacare. And all these like working class people hate Obamacare. And then you got Jimmy Kimmel up there crying and talking shit. And I respected the first time he cried because I think that he felt his son was in danger, and I honestly felt it was real. And even though I disagree with his policy, I was like, man, I get that. That's pure emotion. That's a father's love. And then I think he saw the reaction from it and the power from it and the reinforcement from it and the likes from it. And then he started getting that crocodile tear shit going with guns and, you know, the Jimmy healthcare approval. And it's like, no, bitch, you have chicks jump on trampolines, you try and get them to touch your cock, you fucking slob, you know? And don't you tell me to give up guns. Like, the left is telling us that Donald Trump is Hitler and the cops are KKK. So the best thing to do is give up your arms to these people. They're illogical nightmares, and everyone's done with it. Like, outside of this bubble, people are fucking done. You know, teachers, plumbers, the world's run by plumbers and truckers. And these people don't realize that their big plume, their big bird of paradise plume comes because they don't have any predators, because strong people protect them. And as soon as they lose their right to have their songbird shit and they start acting bigger than they are, we'll let the wolves fucking rip that plume right off their fucking heads. No joke. And it's like, I hang out with lumberjacks and vets and heroin addicts, and they want to talk about fucking taking a knee because cops shot 9 guys. I've lost 3 guys this year to heroin. And these people know that shit. And sometimes I think Trump was a bit of a repercussion to their bullshit. And, you know, he's not ideal in my opinion, but he was necessary for what they set up. You know, where it's like, if you set up a world where like masculinity is seen as bullshit, you're going to get a caricature of masculinity. You're going to set up a world where like words are violence. You're going to get a guy that doesn't give a flying fuck about his words. And God bless that guy for bringing the culture back to normalcy. I just think that, you know, he could, you know, Google whether or not his relationship to the Virgin Islands and shit like that. Oh, dude, I'll tell you a story right now. Like Trevor Noah, I defended the guy. I liked Trevor Noah. When he was, his first special, I really liked. He was a really provocative, funny, handsome, nice guy. You know, like he was at a show of mine once, and afterwards people were wanting pictures with me, and he was humble enough to be the one who took the picture. And he had just gotten the Daily Show, and I'm like, what a good guy. And then I saw everything turn. And like when everyone was shaming that guy for his tweets, I had his back. I was actively tweeting like, America, you have no right to shame this guy for his tweets. Like this is a guy who was born illegally. You know, to be black and white in South Africa when he was born is illegal. And I'm like, you do not come at this guy. And then to see within a year, he's talking about, you know, comedians self-censoring and being on the right side of history and all this shit. I'm like, fuck you, man. You know, like you just got bought. You just got bought. And it's like, there's no amount of money for me to push an agenda like that, because I went from really respecting the guy to see him slam the door that got him in. And that, Sarah Silverman did the same thing. Someone that I used to go from the Improv bar into the showroom to watch specifically because I thought she was so funny, because she would do a song and be playing. She'd be like, oh, I was raped to that song. You know, hilarious, dry, funny shit. And then once she gets those stacks, then she closes the door for the next generation of irreverent comedians. And I don't know why these people do that. I don't know why anyone would piss on their own family, where it's like, what got you here? That's why the legends like Joe Rogan and people like that, where it's like, they don't forget where they came from. And Joe, in my hour of darkness, when my agent drops me, you know, I'm just getting called human garbage every 0.8 of a second. he sees what comedians are, and that we're slightly tragic. We're very intelligent, tragic people. And it's like, if you're good-hearted and you're not trying to be cruel, you gotta let them back in the tribe. And these people are getting so pompous and arrogant that once you lose the will of the people, ask, you know, what's that let 'em eat cake chick? Remember? French Revolution? Yeah, Marie Antoinette. Ask Marie Antoinette how that went. When you keep saying let 'em eat cake. When you lose the will of the people, there's no document that won't keep you from having your head taken off your body. And there's people in this country that will absolutely kill you. They're not. That's another irony, is people keep mocking Christianity, you know, Bible thumpers and these fucking. It's like, without Christianity, you guys are dead, man. This whole forgiveness, good guy, like good person thing. Thank God that Christianity exists, or a lot of these people will just, they go right into Hollywood or Silicon Valley and it's just a bloodbath. Thank God they believe in something above them that humbles them, that has them be a better person, or else you guys are all, you know, I have buddies that have killed people at 2 kilometers. And if they didn't have a sense of right and wrong, people are just gonna die. And I don't think people see that there is a tipping point when the silent majority of America just starts being like, you guys have to walk away or you're out. Like, you're out. Because the trucks, that all your shit you buy is being trucked by men you disrespect, and plumbers you disrespect, and farmers you disrespect. And you can't stuff your fat fucking mouth at Whole Foods without these people that truck it in and grow it, you know? And this disrespect, you know, the universities in this country, and my parents are professors, they're not the fucked up kind, but they're professors, and that ability of learning those things and being in this protected space where you can have your own ideas comes because strong people keep you safe. And when you disrespect those people, they will let you get eaten by fucking wolves. So like, these are, I'm not worried about myself. I'm worried about some of these people that don't see what is really out there. You know, I've done comedy in the Middle East. I've seen animals that can really, that they don't care about your safe space. They'll fucking rip your face off your body. And that's right there. That's right there. And just be thankful for what we have. Respect people above you, below you in the economic sphere, because you don't know where they are spiritually or emotionally. And, you know, let's just all be American and get through this together. What is truth? I think there is truth. I just don't think any of us can possibly comprehend it. It's like the parable of the 5 blind men touching the elephant, where it's like one's touching the tail, one's touching the leg, one's touching the, you know, the trunk, and they're describing it. You know, it's like an elephant is ivory, an elephant is a sinewy tail, and they start disagreeing and they stab themselves to death. But they were all right. I'm not a postmodernist. I don't think truth is in your emotions or the eye of the beholder. I think there is truth, but I don't think any one of us can possibly see it from our perspective without the help of others. And so I think truth is there, but we all have to just try as hard as we can to represent our truth, so together we can see what truth actually is. What else would I want to add for the doc? You can get my new hour special at hugepianist.com. Support the Big Bear. You know what I'm saying? Let the Big Bear keep howling. Any more for the doc? No, I'm just glad you guys are making the doc. Free speech is the First Amendment for a reason. So, you know, it's a little bit more important than, you know, quartering soldiers and whatnot. So let's keep it free.